turn back on.
Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the open board meeting of SD 48 on June 8th, 2022. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are privileged to meet on the unceded and ancestral territories of the Squamish and the St'át'imc Nations. And with that, I would like to ask for a motion to approve our amended agenda for the evening.
That the amended agenda of this meeting be approved.
Thank you, Rick. Do we have a seconder? Celeste, thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. And we have a couple of minutes that require adoption.
That the minutes of the board meeting held on May 11th, 2022 be adopted.
Thank you, Rick. Second, Celeste, thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. And the second set?
That the summary minutes of the in-camera meeting held on May 11th, 2022 be adopted.
Seconder for that, thank you, Celeste. Any opposed? Seeing none, that's also carried. That brings us to number 3, announcements. Chairperson's remarks. I think the only thing that I would say at this moment is to any members of the public who are listening today, if you have any questions and you would like to submit those, the questions do need to be related to tonight's agenda. If there's something that's easy to answer and well related, we can do our best to answer that tonight. However, if the question is a little bit more complicated, we will ask that you provide our staff a bit of time to do the research necessary to give you the most fulsome answer available. And those questions can be emailed to us at board@sd48.bc.ca. And that's all I have. Are there any trustee remarks? Seeing none, I will ask if there are any superintendent remarks.
I do have a couple. Thank you very much. Some exciting news to share. I first want to acknowledge that June is National Indigenous History Month and that June 21st is Indigenous Peoples Day. During this month, we recognize the rich history, heritage, resilience, and diversity of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples across Canada. So if folks haven't already, please see our news and events section on our website. There's a link to a Government of Canada website where you can learn more. And I do want to point out that all the learning materials on that website were created by or in cooperation with our Indigenous peoples, which I think is fantastic. And of course, as a district, I just want to recommit our commitment with humility and good hearts to truth and reconciliation. So on that note, I'd like to update the board and the public on the equity scan happening in our district. The opportunity to come back in person meant that long-awaited conversations could finally happen between in community in the north and the south. Again, meeting together face-to-face to honor the voices of community was appreciated by all. These significant conversations were recorded and will be looked at later, analyzed, and will absolutely help inform the way forward. And we look forward to more opportunities to engage with community, to listen to and learn from them to help us do what's right and maintain our commitment to truth and reconciliation. And on a third note on that, in terms of honoring Indigenous voice, to remind folks that this year's 24-hour drum was held last month in May, I think on May 16th at Pemberton Secondary School. And a big thank you and shout out to Indigenous leadership. Those students in our district joined in celebrating rich and thriving culture through song and dance. And I want everyone to stay tuned for an upcoming video showcasing this event. And we'll share that out on our school district website once completed and once we have permission to do so. So stay tuned. In addition to Indigenous History Month, June is also Pride Month. And our district joins in celebrating, again, resilience and contributions of the LGBTQ+ community. Our district continues to advocate for equity, diversity, and inclusion to ensure that all students, staff, and families feel welcome and supported. I'd like to point out that, again, on our website is a link under the Families tab on our website, under Family Resources, to a website folks hopefully already know of, called SOGI 123, which is an informative and research-rich nonprofit that both helps educators make schools inclusive and safe for students of all sexual orientations and gender identities, but also resources for parents. And again, you can find a link to SOGI 123 by clicking on Family Resources under the Families tab on our website. And of course, last and certainly not least, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate the graduating class of 2022. There are some fantastic events, graduation ceremonies coming up with our first celebration. We have the honor of attending Indigenous graduation for students of Squamish heritage and ancestry at Totem Hall this Thursday, followed by graduation ceremonies at PSS and WSS on Saturday, and then the following Friday evening, HSS and including an alternate. So we're super excited that we're all going to be in person for that event. And it's going to be a wonderful celebration that we can all be together and celebrate our amazing grads. So all best wishes to our graduates. And I'll end there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Chris. That's fantastic. Thank you for all of the good news updates. Everything sounds really positive and that's great. Thank you so much. That brings us to 3D, our Secretary Treasurer remarks.
Thank you. I don't have any remarks at this time.
Okay, thank you, Danielle. Number 4 is our receiving delegations, of which we have none today, but that does bring us to number 5, which I'm very excited about because I did preview this in our agenda, and I'm really happy to be able to introduce this topic. It's our student staff presentations. We have the Collaborative Film Festival project by Spring Creek Community School. Now, is there someone on Zoom who is going to speak to this?
Would Victor and Maggie like to introduce this?
Sure, why not?
Terrific. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no worries. So basically this thing that we've done is just a movie, a short movie, from 3 to 5 minutes long. And what you're meant to do is you're meant to gather a group of friends together and then think together and say, hey, what do you want to film? Or what do you want to make this movie about? And then once you guys get, once we got those ideas, then you would just get a camera, get your friends, and then just go find somewhere to film. And then basically when you're done filming, which takes a couple of weeks, then you give it to one of your friends, or you do it yourself. One of you guys in your group does it. And you guys just edit it in an editing software. And then you had sound effects, you had a little bit of CGI, in my movie that we did. And then after that, you just put it on a USB, and then you put it on USB, or you have it in your computer. And if it's in your computer, you just email it to Miss Palmer. Or if you have it in as a USB, you just also go to school the next day and you give it to Miss Palmer. And that's basically long story short of how we did it. And yeah.
Maggie, would you like to add anything?
No, Victor said it all.
Okay. Do we want to start the film?
Sure.
126 students,
27 production companies,
8 weeks, 27 films.
literally blood, sweat, tears, and hours of editing.
Now presenting SCCS Filmmaker Showdown.
What a nice day. I agree. Whoops! Where are my glasses? Sorry, here they are. Kathy, my glasses are broken! Well, how do you know that your glasses are broken if you need them so badly? Also, aren't you worried about me? I just fell. I would be worried, but I can't see. Everything's all blurry. Well, I'll fix them. Nice try, Kathy. I have an extra pair in my car. That's a relief. You know, we should probably go to the car and get them. Then we'll come back here. Sure. Okay, which way's the parking lot? Oh, it's I don't know. I thought you did. Seriously, Kathy, I've had it to here with you. Just calling someone to save us. Hello, this is Rebecca from McDonald's. How can I help you? Oh, hi. Can I please get 2 Big Macs with 3 extra large fries, please? Where would you like that to be delivered? It's by a tree with like dead branches. You will have to be more specific with your location. Oh, can there please? Oh, sorry. There's like leaves by it, and there's. She hung up. The nerve of that woman. Ugh. I thought you were calling someone to save us. McDonald's won't help us. I was calling someone to save us from deprivation of fried food. Kathy Ruth McKenske. Oh, look, there's a lady. We're saved. Over here. Oh, hi. Do you know where the parking lot is? Oh, yeah, it's right over there. Oh, thank you. Bye. Let's go. Come on. So which one's your car again? Can't you see or remember? Well, it's not my fault that you're helpless. It's not my fault that you have glasses. You think I chose to have glasses? You think I chose to have eggs to get in my eyes? Well, I don't know. I'm not Einstein. Clearly. I'm sorry. What car do you drive? It's a GMC. Is that it? Probably. See if it's opened. Okay. Okay, right now open the glove box and get my glasses. What box are gloves? It's the box in the front of the car, Kathy. Wait, is this them? Feels like them. Yay! Wait, this isn't my updated prescription. Nice day.
Mrs. Palmer and Mrs. Stratton first introduced the idea of the students making their own short films.
Then we received the criteria for the SCCS Filmmakers Showdown and began choosing our groups.
Once in our groups, we discussed genres, roles, ideas, and where to film.
Then we completed our planning sheets, storyboards, and the writing of our scripts.
When that was done, we designed our posters to promote our films.
Our last step was the hardest. We needed to film, edit, and produce our films.
Finally, we reflected on the process and began to prepare for the big event.
We set up tech, seating, lighting, and the red carpet entrance.
All that was left was a celebration of our hard work.
Our film is called Red. It's from Old Man's Productions, and it's a drama mystery.
I just can't believe it. He was the love of my life.
It's gonna be okay, doll. We'll get through this together.
Also, please take that earring off. It's not quite right. Here, try these. I don't know what to do without a man. He was such a gentleman. Always knew how to make me laugh on a bad day. Honey, you don't need a man. You're a strong, independent woman. Now wipe away those tears. You'll get dehydrated.
I'm Carolyn and I'm in grade 7. We were putting blood stains with paint, washable paint, all over our hospital gowns in a public bathroom. And we got it all over the bathroom and the janitor came and we had to clean it up, and we got kicked out.
No, we didn't. He said we could stay for like 2 more
Oh,
hours. He was
okay.
really nice.
We could stay.
My name's Issa and I'm grade 7. Probably trying to set up the best shots I could with my tripod because I wanted better cinematography for my movie.
My name is Cecily, and I'm in grade 7. Well, while we were filming, we were gonna film behind Myrtle Phillip because I had been there 2 years ago and it sounded perfect for the spot. And then there were bridges when I last went there, and then we went there and there weren't any bridges, so we all ended up walking through this big marsh, and we all got wet to our knees, and then we didn't even end up filming there because there was no stable ground.
My name is Parker and I'm in grade 6. My name is Josie and I'm in grade 5. I think a smaller group would have been better because we had lots of drama and fighting when we were acting, and we tried to accommodate everybody, but it was really difficult. I think that we could have worked more collaboratively and tried not to talk over each other and so much and listen to people more.
My name's Max and I'm in grade 6. I liked making the poster. It was really fun and I liked brainstorming it.
My name is Emma. I'm in grade 5. One of our actors went to Costa Rica and we were not only jealous but had to adjust our filming.
My name is Cole. I'm in grade 7. There's this scene where we were shooting Avery on her bed in the hospital when she dies, and it took forever for us to get it. We kept laughing. It was really funny. But yeah, it was a pain.
Wow. Congratulations to all the filmmakers. I am so incredibly impressed. They are tremendous movies. I love how everyone talked about the parts that they enjoyed while they were making the movies. I like your reflections on the parts that were challenging, that collaboration was a bit of a tricky piece to the whole part. I have one question. I'm wondering, did someone teach you to use the software editing or the editing software to make your movies, or did everybody know how to do that already? How did that happen? I'm sure it was not magic. It looks like it was hard work.
Well, one of the teachers came to my class and taught us how to use iMovie, but a lot of us didn't know how. Only some of us knew, but what happened was there was a few kids who knew a lot about tech, and we organized so they could teach the other kids who were going to do the editing for their groups.
Wow, that's super impressive. Wow. Does anyone else have any questions they'd like to ask or any comments they'd like to make?
If you don't mind. Hi, Victor.
Hi,
go
ahead.
Deanne. Hi, Mario. I want to say thank you for that. That's beautiful work. And I'm thinking of how proud I am of you, Victor, and all of you, Maggie, and the whole crew. Thank you for that.
Thanks so much for your comment. Yeah, Paul and then Chris.
Yeah, I want to offer my congratulations too. I'm so impressed with this project. There's so much to this. It is fun, it's engaging, there's so much creativity. We could see all of those competencies coming out in the work. And I'm just curious about who was involved. So was this sort of a school-wide project? It looked like it may have been just some of the older grades. Was it a couple of classes? Can you tell us a little bit about who all was involved?
Yeah, sure. So it was just, I'm pretty sure, from the grade 5s to the grade 7s. And pardon?
There's a couple 4s because it was the 4, 5, 6 split.
Oh, right. Yeah, Miss Hennessy. Yeah, anyways. So yeah, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we all got together. Sorry, no, actually, Miss Palmer was trying to introduce the subject, as you saw in the little trailer at the beginning. And what happened was we all had different genres for the types of movies. Some of them were horror, some of them were comedy, most of them were horror, some were really funny ones and everything. And what happened would what we would do is we would get like a group of 5 or 6, and we'll get together one day, and then we would just we got this like rubric from Miss Palmer and Miss Thread, and we were meant to like fill it out, and it was like, what is your movie about? What is your like production crew? What is your production name? And like, what are you guys gonna do? And once you filled that out, you would start filming. And you would just start filming. And then, like I said at the beginning, you would edit it, and then you would just hand it into Miss Palmer, Miss Stratton.
It was also, all of the classes did it. Like everybody, I'm pretty sure, was required to do it.
Yeah, everybody from grade 4 to grade 7 was required to do it, or that one class with grade 4s.
So do you have any guesses as to how many films were made?
There are 27. films.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's impressive.
We were really lucky. We had basically 100% participation and completion.
That's tremendous. Excellent. And then I think Chris wanted to make a comment, and then Rick had a comment.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be brief because Ms. Lorette highlighted, just the clear demonstration of all of our competencies, and whether you knew you were learning them or not, although I suspect you did, because I know that rubric, right, helped ensure that all those pieces were covered. I was really impressed by the process that you went through. And so, we're really impressed with all the work of the students, but I also want to thank the teachers and all the staff involved in supporting these kids, because you clearly did an amazing job. It was clear they had fun. And of course, as important, they learned a ton. And I just can't wait to see, the next set of films these students might make on their learning journey. So well done, everyone. Thank you so much.
And Rick, go ahead.
Yeah, my comment is just going to echo Chris's really, and I wanted to acknowledge that when you see learning this complex and this deep, that there's some very complex and deep teaching. So right behind the scenes, literally in this case, are some pretty dedicated and hardworking teachers, and thank you for that.
All right. Well, if there are any other comments, I think we've got 1 more minute, or if there's anything the students or the teachers or anyone online would like to contribute, we could have a few more seconds.
Maggie, do you want to tell them about the volunteers that did the student assessment, and maybe also touch on the People's Choice?
Yes, so there was kids who we were asked to do a peer assessment on other movies, just filling out how the others did and what they liked about their film and things like that.
Yeah, and like how the quality was, and like how the editing was, like if somebody just like put some clips together and then handed it and just said, yeah, it's done, just almost was like 0 editing, or if they spent like tons of time editing it and just spent a ton of time editing it, and like you would like choose between that. It was like basically like a teacher assessment rubric. Like have a highlighter and you would highlight like the thing, like the corresponding text with what you thought. And at the end of like the like big showdown, you would like give it to Miss Palmer, Miss Stratton, and then they just like were like, okay, thank you, and then you would just leave the gym.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. I think you've inspired Mr. Kent to make a comment.
I'd like to know what you've got planned next. Where do we go from here?
Me or the students?
I was actually asking the students.
I'm going on summer holiday. It's June.
Good answer.
I just really want to thank Maggie and Victor. I don't know if you recognize Victor's voice was also one of the voices that, and like true voices that wrote the script for the presentation. And Maggie, as you saw, was a star in her film. So I'd like to thank both of you guys for taking extra time and helping present this to the board.
No worries. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you so much. All right. Thanks very much. We really enjoyed that. That was a super special treat for our June board meeting. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Mari. Mario, sorry, I can't see the names on the screen because my eyes are old. Please go ahead, Mario.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'll just take 30 seconds. I did just want to say that when Ms. Palmer brought this project to see if I thought it would be good, it was full of student voice and choice. It was full of our competencies, just written all over the board, and the engagement from the students. I was impressed. Deanne did not shy away from that statistic. It was 100% engagement from the students, and it was all, they built their own production companies, they assigned their own tasks, they learned each role to write their own scripts. It was just a fantastic project-based learning example. And you know, her and Miss Stratton, they pulled it off, and the students did as well. And I'm so proud of our teachers and our students in this case. I just wanted to make sure that voice was heard as well. So
thank you so much for that. All right. That was a super good presentation. Oh my gosh, so many good words. I feel really great. It's really inspiring to see this kind of work. So thank you to everyone for your dedication and your hard work. And just wow, really wow, amazing. That brings us to our next piece of our agenda, which is our year in review. And Chris Nicholson, our superintendent, is going to kick that one off.
All right, thank you very much. And as always, it is such a hard act to follow. The kids, I don't have sound effects. I don't have a blooper reel. Hopefully not, but we'll do our best. So Archie's going to control the slide deck, and we'll just say next when we move on from slide to slide. So this is our, let's wait for the slideshow mode there. Whoops. So this is our 2021-22 year in review. And the approach that we took this year was to really look back at what both the ministry and the district said were priorities for us this year, so we could report out on that. So in the spirit of the new reporting order around FESL and ensuring that we stay aligned with the ministry vision, the district vision, school learning plans, et cetera, we thought we'd follow a similar review cycle. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey. I'm going to walk us back to September when we received the ministry priorities, and we're going to speak to what those priorities were, and also the ministry progress and our response to them. And then I'm going to turn it over to Paul, who is going to go through the initial slide on our top priorities for the district. And then I've got folks persons most responsible for each of those departments and portfolios to speak to their items as well. And that's why we're joined by these fine folks this evening. So to start, let's just go to the first slide. And the first slide is really the overview from the ministry. So this initial slide said highlights Ministry of Education ahead. And now, of course, it's the review. So we'll go to the next slide. And the ministry was very clear that their priorities for 21-22 were the following. I'm not going to read them all out because we're going to talk about each of them in turn and see how they did. So let's move on to the next slide. So they made a commitment to childcare. And the way this reads is everything in blue is the additions that we made to it to sort of show you where we are now. So as the ministry said, the ministry is going to transition childcare to education, which they have officially done. And we are now called the Ministry of Education, and childcare. So it's a mouthful, and forgive us if we make mistakes as we go. But it's an exciting partnership for sure. And one of their main goals is to build that integrated universal early care, and that is still in progress. So in terms of the funding that they said was coming, sure enough, it was announced provincially, $2.1 million. Of that, $50,000 was provided to SD48 to help us be one of those pilot districts for Seamless Day. And Phil will speak to a little bit more to this later when he does his portfolio. There's more announcements to come, so stay tuned. And again, that engagement between education and childcare to see how we can best work together is ongoing. So as we get more information, we'll share that with you. Next slide, please. A second priority, of course, was FESL, which I briefly spoke to before. We, of course, submitted our FESL in June of last year. The board approved it. Thank you so much. It is now on our website as well. And then over the course of the year, I've been privileged to be part of a number of what's called cooperative cohort sessions with other districts and the Ministry of Education, with our seconded superintendent, Lisa McCullough, helping to lead that. And it was a real privilege again to speak to our process and the good work we're doing in our district around FESL. And we are awaiting any tweaks to that. And we are anticipating the next FESL to be due in the fall. And of course, we'll update the board then at that time. So we can move on to the next slide. There we go. So this is all related to reporting, of course, and the reporting order. So there has been a lot of work done across the province on the performance standards, and more information is going to come to that. And again, I know that Assistant Superintendent Paul Lorette is going to speak to that in his slide, so we can move on to the next one, where I've got a few more details here. So we were anticipating a new reporting policy this year from the Ministry of Education and Childcare. They provided a draft. There was ample opportunity for lots of feedback from educators across the province. And given that feedback, they realized they had some more work to do. So that reporting policy has been deferred for implementation for another year, for 23-24. So what's important to note is that we can anticipate lots of opportunities to learn more and hopefully be a part of developing resources for the new reporting policy over the course of the next school year. We did receive a framework in May of 2022, and that's sort of a draft framework. And we're still waiting more information and then waiting for when that can be shared with the public moving forward. So we hope to have an update for you following our summer meeting with the ministry at a big conference that happens in August. Next slide. All right, so the ministry also announced the movement to some changes to online learning in order to ensure consistent delivery of quality service across the province. Again, there's been some deferrals. I suspect that the onset of the pandemic may have had something to do with some of these needs for more time. So the move to opportunity for folks to engage with provincial online learning schools has been deferred for another year. And I apologize for a typo there. That means that for next year, we are able to continue our current online learning program for all of our students, as well as out of district students at this point in time with no changes. And again, as those changes come forward, we will share them. And I don't recall making a second error, but clearly I did, because the process for sort of modeling and reviewing provincial online programs is also deferred for another year. So again, we're anticipating more updates in the summer, and stay tuned in the fall. Moves through, one more please. Okay, so mental health in schools, another really big commitment by the ministry this year. And sure enough, of the monies that was promised, we received a grant for $55,000. And I want to thank our Director of Instruction for Learning Services, Phil Clark, and his team for really working hard to really think deeply about how best to use this money to ensure quality programming and supports for students and staff. And what's really promising is that network of counselors across the district, and really focusing on secondary schools, because we know that the pandemic has had it seems to have been a disproportionate effect on kids in that age bracket, and we wanted to help address those concerns. So again, we're looking forward. If folks were tuned in earlier from the public to our finance committee open meeting, we had shared that at the time we hadn't received confirmation of further grants, but we are hopefully going to get some more, because we absolutely in SD 48 are committed to supporting the mental wellness of our kids. Next slide, please. All right, and reconciliation. The province again made some real good timely commitments moving forward. As I mentioned earlier, at the committee of the whole, we are anticipating an anti-racism policy, and again with a real focus on racism against students and anyone of Indigenous ancestry to be coming out shortly. And we are committed to incorporating those results into our own anti-racism policy. So that's very exciting work to come. And the First Peoples course for graduation was announced and legislated. There's an opportunity for folks, so hopefully lots of folks an opportunity to provide their feedback by the closing date in April. And our district is awaiting those results so that moving forward, we can meet with Indigenous partners in our district, hear from our students, hear from community, and then make an informed decision in terms of how to implement that graduation course. We have a year to get that right. We don't want to move too quickly and make any decision without including the voices of our folks of Indigenous ancestry. They are the number one, obviously, partners in this, and we will defer to them on this. It's the right thing to do. We also, as you know, signed our LEA in 2021. And so really proud of the work that was done before my time by lots of people around this table, but specifically Susan Leslie, our past director, our current district principal, Karen LaRochelle, former superintendent, Lisa McCullough, and again, lots of other folks behind the scenes and around this room that have been wonderful champions for that. I spoke to the anti-racism strategy already that we're awaiting. And finally, the ministry really wanted districts to ensure they were including Indigenous education councils in financial planning. And proud to say we have always done that. Sorry, for as long as I've been here, at least with our district partner meeting and the budget process. We take the lead of the targeted funding for this education by meeting with council, and are continue to look for ways to ensure that very important voice is at the table. All right, next slide. Again, I spoke to the anti-racism earlier. This is just a slide providing a little more details on what they were going to be working for. And as we see, we were hoping to have received the framework and policy in the fall. Hasn't happened yet. So again, hoping for some exciting announcements in the summertime, and our anti-racism policy is in progress. And again, if the public weren't zooming in earlier, I want to again extend my gratitude and appreciation to the students in student leadership, district student leadership, and other students who I know were also consulted, obviously such as those in Indigenous student leadership, who provided some incredible feedback to inform our policy moving forward, and to remind the public that this is new policy. And when it does come to draft and come to the board, it will also be released to the public for a public consultation process. And we really hope that we have the information we need to get that off the ground in the, if not by the new year, at least shortly thereafter. All right. Next slide. Meals programs. Again, they wanted to ensure that during COVID, there was access to food for families in need. And really, again, really proud of the efforts that SD 48 did to ensure that we had a robust system to provide food to all students and families in need, which included door-to-door delivery. And again, this is a provincial mandate, a provincial direction for boards. And we have already in place hot meal programs, access to food at all of our schools. And if you've been in our schools, you know that there's fridges, there's cupboards, and food is just there for anyone to have at any time. It's as stigma-free as possible. And you know, to the trustees, I would invite you, when you are visiting our schools, don't hesitate to grab an apple or a banana or something like that, because it's a lovely example for kids that this is for anybody, anytime that they need it. All right, so we know there's going to be some more work done in the fall about a more sort of a scan and a fuller assessment on the current state. And again, we'll take whatever feedback we get to provide better service for our students. Next slide. All right, so that takes us to the very exciting details around what we stated our priorities were. So before I turn it over to Superintendent Lorette, I will just point out that when you see the slides, you will see dark blue, and those are the priorities we shared with you in September. And then again, the light blue with the arrows is our response. So Lorette.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, so Archie, you can go right to the next slide, please. Okay, so first of all, balanced literacy, balanced numeracy. So what we had set out to do was to create a couple of documents sort of outlining a framework for both of these concepts. And Phil and I did manage to complete the balanced literacy document in the fall. It's been widely distributed. All teachers have access to it. The ILT has made use of it in their work this year. The numeracy plan, while it's not completed yet, that doesn't mean that we haven't done a lot of work with numeracy this year. We just haven't completed the document or the framework, and that's going to take some time. But I do want to just pause for a moment and talk a little bit about the work of the ILT, because the ILT is one of our major support structures in the district around curriculum assessment and instruction. And, you know, it's been a really big year for the ILT, the instructional leadership team, of which we have approximately 8 or 9 coordinators. They are called out on a regular basis to work with teachers directly in classrooms, to provide release time for co-planning, co-teaching, co-assessing. They help solve problems that teachers are having. They just provide all around support. And I'm happy to let you all know that this has been a very successful year. As a matter of fact, we went through most of our release time budget before Christmas time. Which says that, you know, our staff needed the support, and we were really grateful that we were able to provide it to them. One of the challenges we had this year is with release time, and so that became tricky. So that did slow down for obvious reasons. But, you know, the ILT is super innovative, and we've had I'll talk about this a little bit under numeracy. So I'll just pause on that storyline and I'll go into this and I'll pick it up. So Mathology is a resource from Pearson that we spent, I'd say, I'm just going to ballpark around $130,000 over the last 2 years in providing this resource to all of our elementary schools. And it's an excellent resource. It's endorsed by some people, some folks in the math world that we really admire and love and trust. And while we don't typically buy programs and textbooks, this particular resource isn't really like a textbook. It's much more. It's more of a kit. And it really does support the kind of math instruction that we feel students should have access to. So that's very exciting. And our ILT has been supporting some professional learning around that. Carol Fullerton is the person I was referring to. She's a math numeracy specialist in the province, highly regarded, and she travels the province and the country doing professional development. She's an author and writes books. We had her booked to come and work with our students. She's also created an assessment that we've purchased. She's been booked to come and work with our teachers here on the assessment. Unfortunately, we've missed some of that due to the challenges. However, back on what I was talking about before, sort of the innovative piece, we've kind of put together this plan to start doing some online modules, and we were inspired by this from our district implementation day when we had to do some online modules because our presenters were ill, and we found that we've had tremendous feedback from teachers around the quality of the learning that they've had when they can independently go and engage with online professional learning modules. So what we're working on is a series of our own of these kinds of modules that our teachers will have access to. Carol has agreed to work with us to provide a very comprehensive kind of K-8 numeracy online series. She spent 4 days making video. And so we're super excited about that, and that should be ready for our staff in the fall. So that is awesome. Workplace math, as you all know, this was a piece that we worked on very hard over the last couple of years, and that work is continuing to support students who otherwise may not have signed up for more rigorous academic math and are signing up for more rigorous math, and the schools are doing a fabulous job of providing supports for students to be successful. So that's ongoing, and it's going well. Some of these other points, I'm not going to speak very much to them because some of them have already been mentioned and you've had information on them. And I'm certainly not the person who's put most work into them. So other folks could speak more to them. But career life education, CLE, CLC, that work is ongoing. We've had some excellent feedback from Teachers Association and from principals, and there is a group that is working to make some adjustments to how we do CLE, CLC, and so far that work is going well, and we're looking forward to the changes and the improvements that will come from that next year. Social emotional learning, of course, this has been a really big one for us, and in many ways a priority. Focusing, not only on student well-being, wellness, mental health, but also on our staff. And we've had a few programs that you've already heard about today to support our staff, and also to create some district-wide structures around wellness at work, so that it's super clear to everyone what supports are in place, that it is a priority, and how they can access those supports. Finally, post-secondary preparation. This has been an ongoing initiative with some post-secondary institutions, and also with another school district, School District 46, Sunshine Coast, where we're working to establish an early childhood education dual credit program for students in our high schools, which is super exciting. And we're continuing to have discussions with, given where we live, this is a really big industry in our own backyard, and that's hospitality and tourism, and hopefully working towards a dual credit program in that area as well. So I think I took a little bit more time than I intended to, but it's exciting work, and we're happy to share it with you.
So we can move on to the
Thanks.
Next slide. Yeah.
next slide.
Thanks, Paul.
Oh, sure.
I see, yeah, I would say, I see a few
That'd
people
be a
with
lot
their,
to remember, so maybe
Yeah.
as we go.
with their hands up. So if it's okay with everyone, maybe we'll just pause here
Sure.
and, Rick, I saw your hand first, and then Celeste, if you'd like to go ahead.
I just wanted a really succinct explanation of the word balanced in balanced literacy and balanced numeracy, at the risk of asking a dumb question. But
No, it's a really good question, and this is kind of, and you'll know this from your experience, and with literacy over the years, over the last 20, 30 years, there's always been this kind of push and pull on skills and phonics, as opposed to the joy of, kids just connecting with good literature, and there's, one's you do this or you don't do the other. And so the balanced approach is that actually you take the best of those both worlds and work well in sync.
Good, thank you.
I just have if that's okay. My understanding of the work of the instructional leadership team is kind of becoming more robust as time passes, and I have sense occasionally. And one of the words that we didn't use, but I think it could be used to describe that team is mentorship.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, because that wasn't up here, but we did start a mentorship program for all of our new teachers in the district this year. And it was impacted for sure by, like, our plan was to bring that group together, provide some professional learning and direct support. That was interrupted by, what we experienced over the year in terms of illness and things like that. And our instructional leadership team was the group that really took that on in terms of planning for those sessions, working directly with the teachers. So yes, they had a very important role in the mentorship.
And I'll just say it into the microphone because I think it didn't come up before, just for the benefit of the public, because as a parent, understanding the mechanisms and the systems that are being put into place. And my understanding is that an instructional leadership team is not necessarily present in every district. Is that correct to say?
Yeah, I think many districts have a different form of that, but the way we do it, it provides teachers an opportunity to develop leadership, to do district work, and also it provides an incredible support to all schools, K to 12, and some districts might have one or two coordinators who are full-time. So our approach is we have a lot of coordinators part-time who, and there's just a synergy around that. And so I don't know how many districts do or don't have them, but I think we do have a unique approach, which has been successful. We've been doing it for almost 10 years.
It's very, very cool to see. Anyway, I just wanted to highlight that because these are seasoned teachers who are, whenever we interface with them, I want to become a teacher because they're just so inspiring. So please continue, Paul.
Thank you for that, Celeste. That's a wonderful sentiment. Couldn't have said it better. And anytime anyone's inspired to be a teacher, as a teacher, thank you. And I should point out too, these are highlights. And so if there's something that the board knows that they feel, we need to also, celebrate that, please don't hesitate to jump in. These were highlights based on our year ahead plan, and it certainly doesn't cover everything that we do in the district. So we're going to pass it on to Karen LaRochelle, our district principal of education, to give us a brief update on those areas. Over to you, Karen.
I love what Celeste just said too, because ILT I think is such a strength of our district. I just had to say that, sorry. So I hope you can all hear me well. I have temporarily come off of the screen of seeing your faces right now so that I can see this presentation in a different window with my notes in it. And apologies if my voice is weak because I'm just recovering from COVID still. So it comes and goes. Equity Scan, community engagement. We have very well received community events that have just recently happened in Squamish, at Totem Hall, and up in the north at the Land School of Leewat Nation. Such a beautiful setting. These have been very well received community events that start off a whole series of gathering together for information from community toward an action plan in the Equity Scan. Now, originally, as you probably recall, that was the plan in the first place. We didn't let COVID completely shut us down. We, with some stakeholder groups, we switched to online surveys. We didn't want to do that to elders and people in community. We wanted to wait for this meaningful in-person engagement, and we're very grateful to be able to do that now with safety measures in place. Among good compliments to the district, there's also evidence, though, that of much work ahead in decolonizing practice, and the work brings us to disruptive places in our thinking and being. I have presented that fact to leadership, the principals, vice principals, like compliments to the work that we do, as well as prepping them with the knowledge that we will have to go to some difficult places in our thinking, and that as an Indigenous committee, we are going to be there for people to help do this work together. Although it's challenging work, there continues to be much evidence of interest in doing the work by all the stakeholder groups. In other words, teachers really want to do this work. Karen, how can I be more connected? And then I'm like, and some of the Indigenous workers are so stretched, they're trying their best. And so everybody's interested, and the sense of urgency is there. Equity Scan continues into 2022, 23. And just a little reminder that Equity Scan is the enhancement agreement. And so not for people not to worry that we're supposed to already have a new formalized refresh of the enhancement agreement. Is going to come from the action plan of Equity Scan. Decolonizing numeracy, I think you heard a little bit earlier. And again, in order to, Susan Leslie created an incredible program for decolonizing numeracy based on a lot of the research by Joanne Archibald, who many of you have probably heard of. Continued focus on applying First Peoples principles and ways of learning to math instruction, including hands-on and place-based learning. Evidence from assessments that were done at the beginning of the year and the end of this year now just happening indicate so much progress. So this is progress that our teacher leaders who are heading up this numeracy program, they're seeing the progress from one year to the next, and then over the course of the year as well. And the teachers who received the mentorship from these teacher leaders, numeracy coordinators, and received team teaching with them last year in the program, they continued the program on their own this year, while the numeracy mentors then expanded the program into the next grade level. So they started K1 and now they went into 1-2. And teachers in both in intermediate and secondary grades seeing this happening are interested in doing the work. Pardon me for my voice. And so again, the kudos to the ILT, because it has kind of spread over into some of the guidance that the coordinators, numeracy coordinators in ILT have taken an interest in. So we would like to continue to have that program grow. Next, implementation of the Leewat Local Education Agreement. Much work has been done this year to prepare the support staff and teachers and administrators for the work ahead. And for the teachers and administrators, it'll have much to do with the data collection as well as the work of decolonizing our practices. So we have some ideas of Pro-D in place. We've been working on the relational work between support staff and teachers as well. In partnership with LEWAT, we continue the work of enhancing Indigenous student learning, providing post-secondary readiness and being held accountable to this work. And of course, with post-secondary readiness, not just graduating, but graduating with as many post-secondary opportunities as possible. We are going to table the new graduation requirements until the fall because we'll be receiving updates on that. So that's something to look forward to. Thank you. Questions?
Karen, I think you've done an excellent job. I don't see any questions at the moment. Thank you so much for all the work that you've done this year and your dedication to the work. It's important, and we all really honor the steps that you're taking in helping us to decolonize our practices. It's tremendous work, and as I say, we do appreciate everything that you're doing. Thank you so much for your presentation, and I hope you're feeling better soon.
Yeah, take good care.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm so sorry for my voice.
Don't be sorry. Your voice came through loud and clear. We can even hear the passion for the work. So don't worry one bit.
Awesome. Okay, so next up is Director of Instruction Learning Services, Philip Clark.
Is this thing working? All right. Yeah, so we, as always, as a district and then as our, schools and learning services teams, we're always trying to refine our practices to get the best type of data that we can respond to and align our supports around those functional needs. So we spent a lot of time on a process that has come out of Faye Brownlee's work on classroom mapping. And this is how we kind of establish what our strengths of our schools and classes are and where the needs are, and then delegate supports from learning services teachers, teacher librarians, teachers for the visually impaired, education assistants, just instructional leadership team, collaborative models of support. It's a really kind of, it's a busy process, but it's rooted in kind of best practice and is a really healthy way for a school to respond to need. So we've been doing a lot of work on that, and over the past few years, the schools have gotten quite proficient at this process. And again, ongoing work with assuring that students are leading their individual education plans, that it's not something that we construct for them, but we do it with them. And in many cases, they are leading that process. Again, just working, kind of highlighting the importance of a system within a school, of that school-based team, which is a really important problem-solving team that supports individual students, classes, and families with a myriad of resources and areas of expertise, highlighting that to the school staff and to families about this really great structure that we have in schools has been really important. So as a part of that, I've had the privilege of kind of auditing and sitting with a lot of the school-based teams and through classroom mapping process and updating it and creating a more formal set of, I guess we would call them administrative procedures for that. So that if you're new to the district or new to the school, you have a whole new team in there and they want to know how to do it. It's a bit of a step-by-step process for them. We've been really fortunate to work with a group of parents, a subcommittee of the District Parent Advisory Council, some very passionate parents that are willing to come to the table and spend a lot of time working with us on how we can improve our support for parents in the school district, and also identify areas of gaps and areas of strength for the district when it comes to inclusion. Some of the you know, a lot of big work has come out of it. We have surveyed all of our parents with all of our families of students that have a Ministry of Education designation. I think we're the first district in the province to take that step to seek feedback on how we're doing and what's working. And we had tremendously positive results on that, although there are some areas where, you know, even if one family is identifying that their experience isn't going well, that's one family too many for us. So our ongoing commitment to making sure that everybody has the supports and is communicated with in a timely manner will continue to be a focus for us. Again, communication is always a priority for all of our portfolios. So on the families tab on our webpage, there's a learning services document that really kind of explains what that is, what it looks like in the school, what the roles are, what the district level roles are, and then how we layer and support in a model called response to intervention. So again, there's a lot of content there, and we're asking that our principals communicate that in their weekly newsletters as well, so into more digestible chunks. So another really neat initiative that came out of the Brookings Institute and a pilot that we did a year and a half ago on how to get more parent engagement. Some of the members of this committee and some of our principals came up with kind of a self-introductory sheet when you're going into an IEP process, so students and parents can talk about who their child is, what their strengths are, and feel like this is more of a collaborative team and not, you know, getting to know everybody in a more informal way. And that's something that we have refined, piloted in a bunch of schools, and I know rolling out across the district, and everybody's super keen on that. Again, handbook and IEP committees were constantly, I guess the work is never done. So we're always looking at how we can refine our processes and procedures, and meeting with our experts at supporting, creating kind of, again, what we would call administrative procedures, but step-by-step guides on how to do some of the most meaningful work. And again, the work on inclusion is ever changing. And is unique to each student in each class in each school. So that is ongoing. It will continue to be ongoing, and I'm really grateful for the work that our schools and classroom teachers and learning services teachers and education assistants and really school staff have been doing. So that is my slide.
And Mr. Clerk also has the next one. We did that on purpose for update on our three main things around early learning. So sorry, I should have given you some water.
Oh, no, it's okay. I just turned my microphone back on. Okay, so early learning or childcare is such a big part of the Ministry of Education now that it's the Ministry of Education and Childcare. So again, we have some very kind of active processes in that going on at the district and school levels. We have a early learning committee that you know, a lot of work was done earlier in some of the board processes for how we support community partnerships in our schools and what our school plan is or district plan is for early learning. And so that we have a committee that meets infrequently, but we have a standing agenda just in case there's stuff. There will be some updates coming from Cynthia, I believe, a little bit later from the early learning committee. So, you know, board committee there, check. The program review that I was just talking about is very detailed, you know, how we want to move forward with which types of community partners, which types of nonprofits, where our space is allocated, how we prioritize this, and a whole bunch of other really great content. So that is a big process for us. It really paves the way for our plans moving forward. And then there's been an endless amount of work with the Ministry of Education on how to support childcare mandates. You know, we have done a lot of really great work even prior to me joining the district with our partnership with Sea to Sky Community Services, and also Kids on the Go and Whistler, assuring that every single one of our school sites there is access to before and after school care. typically around 24 seats per site. So that's the before and after school care piece. And then there's the childcare piece, which has been a really big component for the province about how do we fold in kids that are not school aged. So I was fortunate enough to sit at a table with many community members for several years on trying to troubleshoot how we get this done in Squamish, and then some folks at the District of Squamish in collaboration with Sea to Sky Community Services and us as well. But really a lot of work coming out of the District of Squamish. Wrote some large grants to have 2 childcare centers open up on the Valley Cliff grounds in the coming future. Is I think worth over $2 million. So there'll be an infant toddler kind of room, and then a 30 months to 5 years old room as well. So that's we're providing the space on the grounds for this, but it's a really exciting project. So that's another way that we're taking care or trying to support the community with non-school age children. Let's skip down to that bottom bullet there, the implementation of non-school age childcare. We also have that at Brackendale in a classroom. We kind of shuffled some kindergarten classes around and dedicated some space to childcare at Brackendale as well. So we have another spot where we're providing, well, Sea to Sky Community Services is providing within our building childcare for children 30 months to 5 years of age as well. So that just kind of goes to show the ongoing commitment by the district, our school principals, the facilities, maintenance department, just to make sure that everything is up to code and working well. And then what else can we do? Well, we joined the Seamless Day pilot program. So we have these, this is our first foray into doing childcare on our own for school-age children, especially those kindergarten to grade 1. So adding early childhood educators to our list of QP titles and hiring trained ECE staff, and having a really truly amazing kindergarten teachers willing to have these extra adults in their room planning together to provide before school care, and then seamlessly transition into the day, and then after school care as well. So it's a new thing. We're one of 20 districts to be doing it. More to come on that in a little bit. And you know, we're constantly looking to work with community partners on how we can provide robust before and after school care programs, and as well as, when space is permitted, non-school age childcare programs as well. So lots of really great work, lots of really great partnerships. And just really, yeah, really good stuff happening.
Okay,
I know it's your thing, but I'm still here. Okay, I'll just jump in and say a big thank you for that, and tons of work going on in both of those areas. Lots of new work going on in those areas too. But I don't think that's the end of our presentation. So let's keep going. This is all really great so far. I'm really enjoying it. Thank you to everyone for the work you've put in to giving us this information.
All right, appreciate that. So to give us the update on technology initiatives, Mr. Nolan Fox, District Principal of Technology Innovation, is joining us via Zoom.
Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to say that with regards to supporting our Pathways to Learning, the technology strand, that I'm happy to say that all our schools have a K-3 student to device iPad ratio of 4:1, and I think we're closing in on a 3:1 ratio for grades 4 to 12 student device, the Chromebooks. That's right now a 2:1 with many schools at a 1:1 ratio. So with regards to implementing EdPlan Insight, we are now on the in the collection phase, I guess you could say, of schools putting in their spring data into EdPlan, and with the year ahead, we should have enough data whereby our schools can start to use use this product to help with things like classroom mapping, their school learning plans, as well as our district looking at some of this data as well. The MyEd Parent Portal has some really exciting things coming out. Specifically, probably the latest has been that we were able to work with Fujitsu to have the parent usernames changed to something that they're used to having, and that is the email address that they've provided to the school. The challenge was that because this is a provincial information system for our students, people with similar first and last names. So for example, Nolan Cox, there might be a Nancy Cox in Prince George, or a Nathan Cox somewhere else in the province. And so what happens is you're assigned NCox3 or NCox41. And so one of the challenges for parents was to remember that username because they're not frequently logging into MyEd all the time. So what we were able to do was have that changed, and Scott has reformatted it such that all our parents now can log in using their email address as their username. So we're hoping to see some of the frustrations of our parents drop. We've gotten some really positive feedback so far on it, so some more to come on that. In terms of our strategic plan update, a focus on the competencies. Right now, we're creating a framework that would look at the process of self-reflection of our students happening, regularly in the classes, as opposed to the 1 or 2 times that they're in CLE class and accessing their map. So right now, Kim and I are working on a framework that would see us supporting our teachers in schools, in their courses, working with students on self-reflections of the core and the curricular competencies together. We are working with the folks at My Blueprint and Spaces, trying to build a consistent portfolio model using those products. Seesaw seems to be a very popular product for our teachers in grades K to 3, K to 4. And so we're trying to build that consistency in Spaces and My Blueprint. All About Me is being phased out and is being replaced with Spaces. The portfolio use in Spaces and in Seesaw are unique in that they have not only the curricular tags, but also our district's containers tagged in these applications. So teachers are able to take student self-reflections and apply those tags directly to what the students are reflecting on. And in terms of continued support for assistive technologies, applications, inclusive learning tools, we're continuing to support our schools through our ICT department, making sure that the technology is available for our students, as well as apps like Read and Write. I believe that we also have a new Diane Gould, who will also be working with schools and students and teachers from the SET BC angle. So I think that's it for me. Any questions?
Thanks. Any questions or comments for Nolan? All right, I don't see anything from anyone. Nolan, I'm just going to give you a big thank you for all the work that you've done this year. Thanks for the explanation of everything that's happening. Fantastic. Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
It's looking good. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yep, thanks, Nolan. Okay, now from our Director of Facilities, Carrie. Yeah, we'll pass the mic to you so you can take us through Operations, I believe there were five things we committed to working on this year. They're there.
I guess this is on. Yeah, so 21-22 was a very exciting year again. It was busy as usual, and started off the year with a very comprehensive COVID-19 response plan in place in all our facilities and on our buses. That response evolved over time under the direction of the provincial medical health officer and Vancouver Coastal Health. And then for anyone who would like to see sort of that evolution of the plan as the COVID roller coaster continued, those are available on our district website. So we have the archived plans as well as our current plan for anyone's review. We had some community consultation for our capital planning this year, and it was in respect of the Squamish attachment boundary adjustments and the grade reconfiguration from a 7 to 9 middle school to a 6 to 8 middle school. So we were communicating with the PACs and the school communities. Just for a little bit of background information, these adjustments are focused on the northern boundaries of both Squamish Elementary and Malcolm. They're both minor adjustments and were designed in keeping students within walk limits to those schools. So we were communicating regularly with the PACs and with the school community. That change for the boundary, the catchment boundary adjustment is to be implemented for September of 2023. So that would be for parents registering their kids in January, would be looking at potentially going to a different school if they're in those affected neighborhoods. And then to speak to the grade reconfiguration, as I said, we're looking at a 6 to 8 middle school model for Don Ross. And so that is included in our capital plan submission for this year. It has been part of our long range facilities plan for some years now. We've been talking about it with the community for quite a few years as well. It does a number of things. It reduces the number of projects we're asking for, additions, reduces the pressure in our elementary schools in Squamish so that we don't need as many construction projects to address our growth. It focuses the plan to primarily have one major capital project, and that would be at Hassan Secondary. It also aligns with our long-term education plan for the benefits to all students by creating the 6 to 8 model. And the implementation for the grade reconfiguration is September 2024. There'll be lots of future consultation coming with respect to that. Number 3 is the completion of the Pemberton Housing Project, which was a student involved construction project. It was the building of a residential house with a secondary suite, and that is complete. And so we're just awaiting possession from the builder to give us the keys, basically, sign the house over to us. And then we're also waiting for the final approval from the Ministry of Education for disposition of that property to break the piece off of the Pemberton Secondary School site. We do have a 10 approval letter for the subdivision from the Village of Pemberton, so it is just the disposition piece that we're waiting on. And that should happen fairly shortly. Fingers crossed. And then we continue to work on green busing strategies. They involve a number of different things. We always look at optimization of routes so that we have the most efficient route for picking students up and dropping students off. We are looking at alternative fuel sources. We've considered propane. We can look at natural gas. And then we've been working with BC Hydro, the Association of School Transportation Services in BC, which is ASTSBC. I always get that one wrong. And also some other service providers like Lion Electric. They're a big electric bus manufacturer here in Canada, and they're lobbying us fairly aggressively about buying their product. So we're working on the feasibility of electrification of some or all of our fleet and where that may make the most sense. Probably Squamish, shorter routes, things like that. And we're also looking at that for both the yellow fleet, the school bus fleet, and the white fleet, which is our maintenance vehicle fleet. And then further transportation initiative this year was the implementation of the student bus pass RFID system. So that rolled out in Whistler in the fall. It was rolled out in Pemberton in early this year, in January. It'll be fully rolled out in Squamish in all 3 communities for September of 2022. And this improves our rider safety, our accurate real-time bus ridership understanding at any time on any bus. It should tell us exactly who's on the bus and what time. And then we're looking at some future enhancements such as an online registration system, which should help parents to identify which bus their student would be on, where the stops will be, pickup times, drop-offs, and all that stuff. That's all I got.
I'll just quickly jump in before you, if you don't mind, just to again thank Ian and of course the whole team, especially around keeping our schools safe and clean during COVID this year as in the past 2 others. And just again, we actually did one of our recognition dinners for custodians in the South and Squamish area earlier this evening. And so I just thought I'd just jump in just to again thank them, because that really did take up a huge portion of their time and of their mental space, as I know they work so hard to keep things clean and safe, and it was a big ask. There were big changes to what folks had to do. So just on behalf of the district, and I'm sure the board, just a big thank you to custodial staff especially, and our drivers and everyone else that keeps our schools and district running. So thank you.
Yeah, if I could speak to the staff, it's amazing how everybody stepped up and just took their roles so seriously, took ownership of the schools, the buses, everything. It was just a full team effort, and I'm really impressed with our staff.
Yeah, I had a chance to speak with some people who were doing some of the custodial work, and I think it was in the earlier days of COVID, and you could actually hear like a real sense of pride in their voices that they were able to do this work to help keep schools open. So it's super admirable. Thank you for everything that you do. I know the general public, when they think about education, the first thing that comes to mind is teaching kids, but without the work that you do, we wouldn't even be able to get to the part where we're teaching the kids. So thank you for doing all of that work. It's vital to the success of our systems.
All right, and speaking of vital systems, without the work of the finance department and the secretary treasurer and team, we wouldn't have any money to do anything. So no pressure. Over to you.
Right. So first item is support the new secretary treasurer team. So I've been here since the end of August of last year. So our team is fully staffed now, and the school district has been through a full budget cycle with a new team. So that was a huge, momentous accomplishment. And the next big task now is for the completion of the year-end accounting and audit with the new team. So this will be our first year-end that we're just going into right now, with June 30th being our year-end, and then the audit. We'll be wrapping up our year-end in July, and then the auditors will be coming out in August to audit all of our financials. And then the financials will be presented at the September 15th board meeting. The funding model review, we were anticipating possibly that being announced, that there would be a new framework, and we were told in the fall that that was deferred. And so as of right now, we don't have any indication of when that will be, but we do know that it won't be for the 2022-23 year. So status quo for that as of right now. And for enhancing business support systems, So the finance team has developed a number of training materials for principals and clericals. So in the past year, we had a number of new principals, vice principals, and clericals. And so we put together some reports to help support them, including some step-by-step procedures on how to run budget reports. So I can safely say most principals know how to run all their reports and look at their numbers and stuff like that. And then also we put together some steps for GST returns. So that was really good. So now everybody knows what to do when they have to do, every school has to do their own GST return quarterly. And same with the bank reconciliation. So we're trying to make things easier when we have new people start, they have something to follow. So that's really good. And then an ongoing thing, I didn't mention it in the slides here, but payroll's always putting on training for people on how to enter timesheets, and that's just an ongoing training that we're doing all the time to just help support people on how to use our Atrieve system to enter timesheets to make sure that our payroll is correct. Another thing that we did in the past year is the school budget workbooks have been improved, and I'll give you an example of that. In previous years, we had Statmas School had 2 separate workbooks. So we had one for the elementary school and then the upper grade portion. And this year we actually combined them together. So it makes it much easier for the principal to manage just one budget rather than having 2. And it just makes it easier for them to manage, and even for finance, because we're constantly running a report for one side of the school and then one for the other. So this year we combined it and then we made it much more efficient for finance and for the school. So that's, it makes all of our work easier. And then another thing that we've done, so we've done some contract improvements. So it was actually quite an easy thing to do, but it's a significant impact. We've moved to electronic signatures and electronic documents. So we don't have to hound people down for hard copies of contracts and hard signatures. Now people can electronically sign stuff. So and then when we're sending stuff via email for signature, we're also providing some instructions on how to do an electronic signature so that people can see how that works. So moving into the 21st century here with technology, so that's good. So that will be, I'm happy to see that we're moving forward there. And then we spent an awful lot of time this year negotiating our Xerox contracts. So I can't take credit for it myself. Connie and Elena spent a lot of time putting together, our finance manager and finance director put a lot of time together to review what leases we have. And basically what we're trying to do is centralize it. So originally we had, every school had they were managing their own, and it was kind of all over the place about how bills were being paid. Sometimes they weren't getting paid. So now we have everything coming here. We can make sure that bills are paid and we're getting the best price for everything. And then we're trying to get everything all on the same cycle so that we have the same lease for each school. So to be more consistent. So that was a huge project we did this year. I think we're not fully there. We don't have everyone on the same schedule yet. I think we're a few years out from that, but we're getting it aligned slowly. We have a plan. We're working with Xerox. So that was a big accomplishment that we just completed in the last couple of months. So yeah, so that's it from my side.
Terrific. Thank you so much for that. And again, everyone thinks, first of all, education is just about teaching, but without someone who's managing the money, we wouldn't be able to get to do the good work that we do with kids. So thank you so much, Danielle, for everything you're doing, and much appreciated. You jumped into a pretty tricky situation with a brand new superintendent coming and lots of staff turnover right at the beginning in your department. So thank you for, I'm sure, all the additional hours that you put in to get things done this year. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
I think we're just refreshing to get to, yeah, there we go. You just had to refresh. So related to Finance Department, of course, is one of the businesses of the board, international education, which of course is far more than just business. And I'm going to turn it over to our district principal of Business Education, Ms. Rauji, to explain that.
Thank you very much. So I'll go over things quickly. I had a joke ready just in case I need to transition, but I'll just go straight into it. So what happens before a student comes is they get assessed on their English proficiency. What we've created, that's the what, now what? We've created a course prior to them coming, a non-credit course, so that they can kind of see where they're at and build on their skills prior to coming. So it's not launched yet, but we're in the process of it. So we've created this course with Vital English, and we're adding it, and it's a really local flavored course, which is really nice, using our 4 blankets, and we're kind of building on it as we go, and that'll be done in the next few months. And then what happened is, if you have French immersion kids, which I do, what happens when they transition from grade 8 to 9 or 4 to 5 often is the terminology sometimes flips. A comma is a decimal, for example, in math, and there's some terminology stuff. So we've also created subject-specific ELL transition courses in chemistry, math, and the hard sciences, where those transitions become really tricky. And that example I just gave you is one. A comma is a decimal, and we don't, my kids didn't get that until grade 11. So we've done some work around making those transitions from their language to the subject-specific courses more meaningful. So that's, again, in progress. But we got a good handle, and we should be able to launch. My goal is by the end of summer. So that's kind of some summer work that we're doing. So that's been pretty cool. One of the things we talked about with interculturalization, and these are all built on the plan that we talked about prior, is combined extracurricular activities. So we take our kids on excursions this year, and it's been slow because of this COVID word, right? We haven't taken kids as much on excursions, but as we've come out of it, we are now often inviting siblings and friends. So we want to make sure that kind of interculturalization is happening. We've seen this year, and if you looked at the House Sound track team, it was all international kids. So a way better integration of our kids into the local activities. So take a look at the international, at the track team at House Sound in the yearbook, because it's pretty cool to see that every one of our kids are on it. That was true for volleyball, not so much for basketball for some reason, definitely for soccer. So we're seeing a ton more integration into school life, which is one of our goals. One of the things that we wanted to do prior was have course curriculum around mobility. So we know that there's a teacher in Whistler that does mobility trips to, service trips. Now we also want to add course content around global education into those things and some teaching. We have the content. We haven't gone on a trip yet, but we want to make that really viable for the next few years. When teachers are going on service trips, when they're going on whatever kind of trips that they're doing, we want to add course content around globalization and their cultures so that there's some reciprocal learning. So that's going to be really cool. We're hoping that happens next year at Whistler, and we can infuse our kind of global education into that. So that's been really good. Again, COVID's really hurt us in the last 2 years, but it's given us a time to kind of plant and root ourselves in what we need to do. COVID has also caused me to travel less, which has been a reduction in cost. But last night you heard Chris was walking by and he heard a bunch of Spanish speaking kids on my Zoom at around 7 p.m. Well, those are kids who are coming to us next year, who I met last night with their families. So I can say 3 years ago safely, before COVID, that did not happen, that I would actually meet and talk to the kids prior. So these are all things that are positives that we're going to continue on. So, the kids have now a face to a name. We did a full orientation with them. We're going to be doing that more and more and more. And the parents are going to get to know us prior to them coming. So it's not just about financial responsibility, but it does help that I don't have to be in their country to meet them. So that was a really good, nice example that happened last night. I've talked about this with the board a fair bit. Homestays over COVID have really declined. So we had a nice surplus before COVID because of what happened at COVID. No international students, essentially. We lost all our homestays, and now we're having to rebuild all of that. My goal is, I really do see stability next year. And then hopefully we can build our surplus, but that full drain really hurt us. And it's been a serious challenge last year and a very significant challenge this year too. So that's kind of what we're working on. It's all across the regions. If I was to tell our past superintendent, Lisa McCullough, we're having problems in Squamish, she would never believe me, but we're having problems in Squamish because she always saw Whistler as a problem. But that's our biggest area. Interesting, we hired a new staff member this year, Thomas McKellar. And today we were working together and I said, have you got this stuff down? He goes, yeah, I just read the staff handbook. Now, one of those staff handbook, the thing that I learned from the school is a staff handbook goes on the wall and we kind of forget about it, but it's been really nice to see his perspective, the fact that it's not a book anymore, it's an online piece that we're constantly changing. But we spent a significant time and significant detail in the event that I ever get hit by a bus or anyone, anyone has to go. It's a well-documented piece for international. I feel like anyone in this room or anyone in the province could walk in here and pick this thing up and actually go with it. So we feel really good about the kind of work that we went into it. And, ongoing pieces, I will say as a people organization, we are very, very highly rated. We take care of our kids and we really value people. As an administrative organization, we're always working. We're always working to get better and better. So one of the things that we're kind of working on right now is a pre-orientation guide online course that all host families will take. Orientation that'll be ongoing, that'll be offered in the course, and we're digitizing it and we're doing it with quizzes and we're doing it. That's kind of really fun and interactive with movies. Again, not ready yet, but a good summer project for me. So it's going to be really cool. And when you complete this course, every family will have a certificate of completion. They'll submit it to us and say, okay, now we know they've gone through the basic framework of what we believe as a homestay family, as what we believe as student guidelines, so that we have 100% completion. Right now, we do it in person. We get 70%. People who repeat get frustrated because it feels like the same thing, but online in their own time and somewhat interactive is going to be very cool. That goes for all our orientations, and we're working also on improved communications with our kids. Numbers are constantly changing, international numbers and things like that. So a silly example, I went on a trip with 80 kids to a hockey game, and I had my WhatsApp QR code, and each kid would scan the QR code, and then I could monitor all of them all around downtown at all times because I had a tracking mechanism. When we got back, I looked at my phone, 70 kids are there. So we're constantly working on making things kind of streamlined and easy. I didn't have to take attendance, but we did because of double checking. But we don't have to do any of that stuff because we're constantly kind of making sure that these things exist. So that's kind of what we're working on in international.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Basil. Lots of moving parts in your department, from the families abroad to the students who come to the families that we have here. I'm really pleased to hear about giving more of the homestay families more information and ensuring that everyone is on board with what the responsibilities are around that. And I love that you're working hard to have more integration between the international students and the students that reside in the Sea to Sky already. I think there's such a great opportunity for learning and cultural exchange there. So thank you so much for your presentation.
So thank you, Basil. We're almost done, folks. So I just want to again appreciate everybody's time because I'm really proud of the work that the team's done, and I think it's really worthwhile to highlight it here and respond back to what we said we would do, so everyone is clear on where we're at. I'm going to turn over to our Director of Instruction, Human Resources, Mr. Dave Duncan, to speak about Human Resources.
All right, thanks, Chris. So, I mean, when you look at our year, recruitment and retention, we knew was going to be a significant challenge, and it continues to be, but what I would say, to echo Faisal's point, we don't have to travel to career fairs anymore. We can do them virtually. We can see probably double the amount of people in a faster sort of process. So that's helped us quite a bit. We've also worked at engaging post-secondary institutions in student teachers. We've always had student teachers, but now we are welcoming more, and we're spreading out sort of the wealth across the district. So we're getting student teachers in all of our communities, and now we're seeing the benefit of that where they're applying. And now we have, student teachers who've learned in our system and are ready to take on these jobs. So we're super happy with that. So that's kind of a bit of new teachers. In terms of hires, there's some numbers here, 68 support staff. A lot of that is EAs, and thanks to Phil and his team for interviewing and reference checking and getting all through that large number of support staff. We have 58 teachers. Again, that's, we have about 400 to 500. So you're looking at 15% or something like that in terms of how many hires we've had. Now, these numbers are a snapshot taken last week of who's been hired since September 1st. So some of this staff won't start till next September, but we continue to sort of reference check and get through interviewing. And I just have to give a shout out to our principal team who helps interview teachers, and our VP team that helps Phil interview EAs, and that's super helpful. We've hired 7 exempt staff, so that's principals and vice principals and a superintendent and a secretary treasurer. Well, not since September, but you know what I'm getting at. And it was super nice to be able to work with the board in that process. And then we've had a significant number of retirements. So, we've had 13 retirements since September. That was 1 added from this morning. And so that continues to be something that we're responding to. And, that's a nice opportunity for someone new to step in and get into a school. And then we can honor those who spent so much time with us helping educate our kids here in the district. So that's sort of a high level picture of recruitment and retention. The one thing I would add is we are now part of a special program that allows us to have a hiring exemption for those applicants of Indigenous ancestry who self-identify as a visible minority or having a disability. And so we've been sort of rolling that out in the last month. And we're hoping that provides us with some diversity in our workforce. And so we're excited to move forward with that work, and we appreciate the board support in that. The next piece is bargaining. And so we've completed our bargaining with the local Teachers Association. The provincial bargaining is still going on at this time, and they'll let us know when they're done. And then CUPE local bargaining, we have not commenced as of yet. But we will update once that occurs. And then in terms of enhancing support systems, kind of like what Danielle was saying, we're trying to move into technology focused in terms of all of our files. We spent a lot of time last year, and this continues to go on with digitizing personnel files. We've moved all of our onboarding to a Moodle, thanks to Nolan and his team for helping us with that. So now we don't have to necessarily be in a room to onboard people. We can do it in a timely manner where they're able to grab it and get the important information quickly. A lot of this goes out through email and just the interaction with the process. And then we'll just continue to work through, creating efficiencies and getting at that tech important piece where that gives us information quickly and we're able to get it out quickly as well. So thanks.
Perfect. Dave, thank you so much again. Thank you to you and to your whole department. And again, if it was not for the important work that you and your team were doing, we would never be able to teach a single solitary student. So thanks so much for that important work. It's complicated and it's tricky business sometimes, and we really appreciate the attention to all details that you provide. So, yeah, thanks.
All right, couldn't have said it better myself. And last, but again, certainly not least, We're going to hear from our communications officer, Ms. Jen Morris, who's going to highlight the 3 things we said we would do around communications and media. So Jen from Zoomland, whenever you're ready.
All right, hello, thank you for having me. So for continuing use of technology for public board meetings, it's been really neat seeing the evolution of how our board meetings have gone, with technology. We are doing a hybrid of an in-person meeting, and we're also live streaming on the SD48 YouTube channel, which is great. So viewers can check it out from their home. They can also go back. The videos are recorded, so they can go back and check it out if they were unable to view it live. So that's wonderful. I think it's working really well. Yeah, so that's great. Improved sound management. So this I've viewed Archie. This is a work in progress, and it's I like where we are. We've tried different sound systems, and when it's not working, we see the team pivot and to continually improve that. So I do also want to acknowledge point number 1. This is all Archie's work. So thank you, Archie, for all of that. We can't do it without you. So number 2, board public relations, community engagement, and communications committee. So the annual communications plan is, it's still a work in progress as we are experimenting and trying new platforms. We continue to amend and have a conversation about that. So stay tuned, still in progress. So this point, enhanced board community engagement. This is a very exciting one. We're continuing to update our website to make all aspects of the website clear and concise. We want our school community to be able to find the information they're looking for. And this is the first part of really engaging with our public, making sure they can have the correct information and find it easy. So yeah, we continue to make it look great, cohesive, and we like where it's going, and we continue to update it. Facilitated Zoom meetings and digital surveys. So, amidst the pandemic, when we had to move online, we continue to honor our engagement by facilitating Zoom meetings. In the case of budget development, we create surveys and use our communication channels to disseminate that information and get it out there so our public can engage with us. And this is a nice segue to the 3rd point. Yeah, we just signed on with a public engagement platform for the 2022-23 school year. It's with a company called Bang the Table. It's really great. You can check out some examples. I know the District of Squamish is using it. So essentially what that looks like is it will be a separate URL website that will be the house for all of our projects. And, our public can go on there and they can check out supplementary documentations related to that project. They can view the timeline. They can see who's listening. Depending on how we set it up, they can ask questions and have a chat forum. So it's really establishing, a process for public engagement moving forward, which has been really, it is and will continue to be really important. So stay tuned. That's we're looking at that being launched sometime in the fall. So that's very exciting. Yes, and then the department landing pages towards the end of last school year, I had created these department flat sheets. I designed them and I embedded the PDF into each department page. We have evolved from there, and I encourage everyone to take a look at the department landing pages on our website. You can go on there. It's all the information is built within the website, and each department landing page on the right-hand side has, a tab for the team members. There's service plans, and yeah, it's looking really, really good. So we're trying to avoid people clicking off onto different, websites that don't look cohesive with our look and feel. So yeah, we're very excited and it looks great. That is everything from me.
Great. Jen, thank you so much. I appreciate your presentation, and we all sincerely appreciate your expertise in communication. The work that you're doing and the people that you're collaborating with to do that work are super key to allowing our district to better engage with the public and to be more transparent. And as we all know, that's one of the things that our public has asked of us, is to be more transparent. So thank you so much for meeting that goal for us and helping us to just be better in that area. Thanks so much.
All right. Yes. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to all the presenters. This takes us to the end of the presentation. And again, want to thank everybody for their time. But I think it's really important to do this review. And just a reminder that in the fall is when we will be looking to resubmit the FESL documentation. And that will be that review of all the data around student learning and our education plan. So moving forward, we hope to continue this process. And as we get the ministry information over the summer, we'll do the same thing, share that with you, share our priorities, and then be able to circle back at the end of the school year to inform the public as to our progress. So again, thank you so much to everyone who participated. I appreciate it.
Thank you everyone for your presentation. We'll have a little clap. Are there any questions or comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to say it was really lovely to hear from the leaders in each of the departments who have now run out of the room. They are done.
Mr. Duncan's still there. Thank you, Mr. Duncan.
Thanks for staying, Dave.
We'll share that.
No, really great to hear from, and I see Nolan, you're still here. Karen's still there too. You stuck it out, guys. No, really great to hear from all the departments. It really helps just hearing directly from each of you what's going on and being able to, we don't always get to see you all. So really appreciated that you came and shared with us what's going on in the departments.
Thank you, Celeste. I don't think I could have said that any better myself. I really think that it was nice that you were able to outline the ministry priorities and show how SD 48 is addressing these priorities. I think that's really another important piece of transparency to our public. I think the presentations, yeah, like I said, they felt really transparent. They felt honest, and I felt that they really did accurately reflect what's occurring in our district and the work that has been done, what's been discussed during board meetings. It does feel really good. There's also evidence that there's still work to be done. Absolutely. I don't think anyone shied away from stating that either, which is another fact that I believe makes us a strong district, and a district that's really working hard to address the needs of all students to further their learning and provide the best life outcomes that we can provide for them. So thanks so much. Excellent presentation. I loved hearing from everyone as well. Would anyone like to add anything else at this time, or shall we move on? All right, I'm thinking the consensus is we'll move on to our next item. Unless you would like to stay for the next riveting parts of this meeting, everyone, our guests are free to go.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. I'm sorry, but backlight is not good, but I'm there. All right, that brings us to trustee item number 6, which is an update from the DPAC from Mr. Ian Kent.
Scared everybody away.
This is a spooky feature up on the screen.
The DPAC is alive and well in SD 48. It's nice to see. We have representation from most of the schools, if not all the schools. And it's a really nice time to share information with each other. It's a time for Chris gives his superintendent's report. I give a little trustee report as well. And then there's a chance for questions. And they spend a long time just answering questions and helping each other. And they share a lot of what goes on in different schools. You know, what is working well that you'd like to share with other schools? What's not? Can you give us some suggestions? So we meet about 4 or 5 times a year. And we had our last meeting, May 16th. That was well attended. It was people were live and people were on Zoom program. So sort of a mixture again, but it was nice to get back together face to face with a lot of the people. So that's doing well. And Phil was going to cover the part, or he covered the part very well on the inclusion committee by the DPAC and all the great things that are going on there. They just had their last meeting June 6th. They're also talking about now when in the summer could they have their next meeting. So neat to see the enthusiasm. Any questions about DPAC? I'll leave it at that. Chris, did I miss anything?
Not at all. That was a lovely summation. Thank you so much. And thanks for your, participation at each of those meetings. And it's clear, obviously, your engagement and you're a fantastic listener. And I think we learn a lot from DPAC and always strive to do better. So thank you for your contribution.
Thanks so much. All right, we'll move on to our board committees. The committee of the whole did meet today. We had a conversation around the trustee calendar updates. We were joined by that wasn't at the meeting that happened, but we did talk about the fact that the custodial staff from Squamish was going to join us for dinner, and we gave some of our awards for long service to various people, and we thank them for the work that they have done. We discussed some of the education sessions that were going to take place next year. There is also in the agenda of that meeting an invitation to attend the Statmas School renaming ceremony, which happens on June 21st at 5 p.m. So if you're available to come out to that event, I think it's going to be quite a significant and important event, meaningful to lots of people. We also have an invitation to attend the Climate Stories. My handwriting is not great. Climate Stories, which is a Whistler Secondary School presentation, takes place at the Rainbow Theatre on Tuesday, June the 14th at 7 p.m.
I'll make that motion for you if it's there.
Yes, please do that.
That the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting held on May 11th, 2022 be accepted.
Okay, thank you so much. Do we have a seconder for that? Rick, would you like to second the motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you so much. Okay,
I've got it.
all right. I see no opposition, so that we will call that motion. That motion will be approved. Oh, pardon me. That brings us down to our policy committee, and Rick, would you like to give a brief report?
Yeah.
on policy?
Yes, I chaired the meeting today in the absence of Rachel Live, the usual chair. So pleased to report that at the policy committee meeting, we did a review of the job plan for the policy committee. And then we went on to discuss three different bylaws. One of them was the trustee election bylaw, the other was financial planning and reporting bylaw, and the other was the accumulated surplus bylaw. And I believe later in this meeting, somewhere, all of those are coming up for a proposed adoption by the board. Is that correct? Yep.
Yep.
And that was it for policy.
Okay, and then we have some.
We have a motion.
A
The minutes
recommendation.
of the policy committee meeting held on May 11th, 2022 be accepted.
Thank you. Seconded by Rick Price. Any opposed? Seeing none, we'll call that passed. Finance committee. Finance committee also met today. We had a presentation from Grant Thornton, who is our auditor. They talked a little bit about some of the new accounting standards. They do assure us that the audit will take place and will be submitted to the ministry by the ministry deadline. So that's good news. We had an update from the Indigenous Education Targeted Funding. There'll be some amendments to that budget and it's going to be presented in the fall. The annual budget bylaw was reviewed and passed by the board, as was the 5-year capital plan. And that I think brings us to, that's the end of the report. We have a recommendation.
That the minutes of the finance committee meeting held on May 11th, 2022 be accepted.
And a seconder for that. Thank you, Ian. Any opposed? Seeing none, we'll call that carried. That brings us to the Public Relations Committee report. We did meet. Oh, did I miss something? Oh, sorry, I pushed the mouse too far. The Indigenous Education Council. We don't have a report, but we do have a set of minutes.
The minutes of the Indigenous Education Council held on March 11th, 2022 be accepted.
Thank you, Rick, for seconding that. Thank you, Celeste, for reading it out. And I see any opposition? I do not, so we'll call that passed. And that brings us to the Public Relations, Community Engagement and Communications Committee, which did meet today. The exciting news coming out of that committee was touched upon a little bit by Jen today when she spoke about a new platform that's going to be added to our district called Bang the Table. It's really, it sounds really good. It sounds super exciting. It's a consistent platform that will be used for all of our consultation across the district. You'll be able to see live engagement as well as moderate the conversations if that's required. Everything is going to be recorded and it will be retained. So we'll have a record of any data collection that we do through this platform, any surveys that we put out through this platform, any of the information that we put out as public engagement will be recorded and we'll be able to archive that and come back to it later. Some examples of where this could be used are the budget development survey, catchment review, school calendar, future strategic planning, long-range capital planning, French immersion review, Blackwater Creek consultation. And we are looking to launch this platform in the fall. And that's sort of a quick overview of what is actually a really, really super impressive and slick piece of software that I think is again going to help us become more transparent and more engaged with our public in a pretty simple way, kind of like a one-stop shop sort of spot on our website. Chris, do you want to add anything?
I think the only thing I'd love to add is just the point that what came loud and clear, and we said it a few times, but coming out of our district partner survey was that ask for clearer communication and enhanced communication channels, and we just feel that this is a real opportunity to capitalize on that, to show the public that we hear you, and we're putting our money where our mouth is by taking some of that funds after everything else is paid for. Again, those small amount of funds that we share and get feedback around how to spend that through our district budget input. That this is one of those initiatives that I think is going to pay off. And as we go through the process, we will also be absolutely open to feedback from the public because we're here to serve them, and looking forward to the journey.
Yeah, there was an excellent presentation of the software at our meeting, and I think if you were to see it, you would definitely have a better understanding of how slick it really is and how it really is going to be a big asset to our district. Oh, we'll move on to the Early Learning Committee, and I do have a report. Here we go. All right. I think the most important thing that is coming out of the Early Learning Committee that I'd like to report on right now is the work that's been done around Seamless Day. It's a pilot program. It's taking place at Blackwater Elementary. And I would like to just recognize the commitment and the ongoing work of Sarah Weeb, who's the classroom teacher, Casey Reed, and Navjot Gill, who are the two ECE, early childhood educators, who are making this program a fantastic success. We're all looking forward to a successful year next year, and the registration for the K-1 program for students will start on June the 7th. The staff are currently reaching out to other districts and partners to learn more and to further their knowledge about best practices in this field. So that is really great news that this program is up and running.
Sorry, may I make one correction? I think you said at Blackwater Elementary up in
Did I
the
say-
north, and it's at Brackendale.
Oh, gosh. Okay,
in
thank you.
Squamish. Yeah, no worries.
That was what I was.
Okay,
Okay, so I was like, wow, this is new. I've never heard of that.
Okay,
before.
good,
Okay.
good.
I know it's
good-
getting late, so no
Good,
worries.
okay, good catch. And like to be perfectly transparent, that's a little so okay. Great, thank you for that. Yes, it's at Brackendale, not Blackwater. Okay. Yeah, great program. I'm really pleased to see this program up and running. Any questions or comments about anything so far? Okay, seeing none, that will bring us to our general business arising, which there is none. And we do have some information items beginning with the 2022-2023 calendar process, and that is Mr. Lorette.
All right, so part of our process is that we actually update the board in June at the meeting, the year ahead of a calendar year. So that's what this is for. So I'm going to be very brief. Essentially, the calendar process next year will be to develop 3 one-year calendars for the next 3 years. There are 2 parts to this process. The first part is the board creates the parameters of the calendar, length of the spring break, placement and dates of non-instructional days. That takes part in happens in the fall. We do a community survey. January-ish, the board will pass that template of a calendar. Then it moves on to the schools where we have the school portion. The principals then build any other school-based items. Then it goes out to public for feedback. And then in March, we bring all the calendars to the board for approval. And that, in a nutshell, is the process.
Celeste, go ahead.
I just had a quick question that maybe you can speak to, Paul, or not, if you don't know anything about it. I've heard whispers of September 30th being moved to June. How is that going to impact us?
I have not heard that.
Okay, then maybe just let's wait until.
That's good intel, though.
I have no idea. I
We'll keep our ears open for
Yeah,
that.
just something to, because there's 2 days in September and also Aboriginal recognition in June, so I don't know. though.
Mhm.
Okay.
I thought
Very good.
maybe you would know.
You may know
Yeah.
something we
Haven't
don't
heard
know.
anything.
That's good to keep in mind. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Celeste. Anything else? All right, the floor is yours again, Mr. Lorette, for the enrollment update.
Okay, well, again, I'm going to try to be really brief here and just very quickly share the screen. Is it not brief enough? Apparently, that's not the right screen. It's not coming up. Maybe I'll just have to tell you. Oh, here, I think it's here. There. Oh. There we go.
There.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is just very brief. So as you know, we do projections for our enrollment, and that's, you know, what our preliminary budget is based on. That happens in January, February, where we do those projections. So you can see there's a line that says projections for September, K to 6, 7 to 9, 10 to 12, and a total. And so what I have is I've surveyed all of the school sort of workbooks to see where enrollment is at. So as of today, approximately in those categories, that is where our enrollment is actually at. Of course, it will change in September. This is just kind of a dipstick, but it's good. We can see that K to 6 is down 26 students from the projections. This isn't from our actual numbers this year. This is from projections, just to be clear. So But we are up in middle and in secondary quite significantly. So overall, right now, we were up 238 headcount students from our projections, which is super positive news.
So the projections were for this past September. Is that what that means?
No, so there are
I-
three kind of things. We have our actual September 30th enrollment
Yeah.
for this school year.
Yes.
That's not a part of this. The projections are what we projected we might have this coming September.
Okay.
And that's what our budget's based on.
Yes.
So what this is implying is that our actual enrollment for September of 2022-23 will be higher than our projections, which means that's a positive storyline for our budgeting.
Yeah.
And again, that's by design. We were always very
were very
conservative
conservative.
in our projections
Sure,
because we
yeah.
never want to over hire or over extend, right, a budget. So yes, as Paul said, this is at this moment in time, this is very, very good news.
So it's not a beautiful slide, but I gathered. I gathered the data like very recently, so this was what I put together for you. So anyway, there you go.
Thank you.
That's good. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, that brings us to Danielle and some information on the CMOS lands.
Sorry, my mic wasn't on. So I'm just going to okay. I just wanted to go over what we've so far, what our the steps have been around the Coast Mountain Outdoor School, and some of the timelines that I wanted to point out that are important. So the first timeline here is September 2008. And at this point in time, the Ministry of Education changed their disposal policy. And at that point in time, they made it a requirement for boards of education to engage in broad consultation in enhanced planning regarding underutilized school buildings and other properties. So at that point in time, if you were going to dispose of property or close a school, they made it a requirement that you had to do some kind of public consultation. And then in December 2010, the Ministry of Education granted the approval for the disposition of the property at Coast Mountain Outdoor School. So at that time, the ministry must have determined that we had met the consultation piece for us to be able to get permission to dispose of the property at that time. And then in October 2020, our school district received a letter from Lilwat Nation requesting for the use of the CMOS lands for healing center purposes. And then in February of this year, 2022, Chief Dean Nelson from Lilwat Nation presented to the board and the public at an open board meeting. He presented his idea on the proposal of the land transfer of the CMOS, the school, the Coast Mountain Outdoor School facility to Lilwat Nation as a move towards reconciliation. Their proposal is to use the land as a healing facility, and it is self-sustaining with enhanced agriculture and land-based activities, which include cultural and educational components. So that board meeting is it's posted on our website with the YouTube there. And we have been working even prior to when I started here. The Secretary Treasurer and our Director of Financial Operations, or sorry, Director of Operations, and Lilwat Nation and the Ministry of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation have been working together on this initiative to transfer the land. So that's been an ongoing for more than a year, I believe, this working together, this team working together to get everything in place to do the land transfer. And then in April 2022, I presented a signed letter of intent between a school district and Lilwat Nation. So the letter confirmed the intention of Lilwat Nation and the district to engage in the transfer. So that's where we're at so far with what's been out in the public. And so I'm just going to stop sharing. I can talk about where we're at right now. So we still are actively engaging with Lilwat Nation and the ministry. At this point in time, an agreement has been drafted and it is being reviewed by legal. So we're anticipating that the agreement will be completed hopefully by the end of the week. And we're anticipating that we'll have a ceremony in July or in the fall to celebrate the transfer of the lands. So the signing ceremony is an excellent initiative towards truth and reconciliation. So I'm going to be looking for a recommendation here to officially approve of the disposal of the lands to Lilwat Nation.
Could you say that again?
Yeah, so I'm gonna ask for somebody to make a recommendation for me. And then I think Archie's drafted something.
Happy to make it once we see it here.
Sure, it'll be in the agenda.
Great. Maybe while that's happening, are there any questions or comments from anyone?
I'll just comment again that I really appreciated the time that Chief Nelson took to provide such a comprehensive and very compelling presentation. And it's something, again, that the district's been working towards for a very, very long time. And I'm just very, I just want to appreciate this board for especially members that have been here for a long time for sticking with this. I know this has been a long journey, and I'm, again, very, very proud to be a part of a district that is again, doing true action towards truth and reconciliation. So, thank you.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead. Thank you.
The Board of Education approves the disposition of Coast Mountain Outdoor School lands to Lilwat Nation.
We'll do the seconder for that. Celeste, thank you. Is there any opposed? Seeing none, I'm going to say that that is carried. Okay, thank you. That's fantastic. I think that's.
I'll just observe that that's kind of a full circle for me because in the 1970s, I was the administrator of the Coast Mountain Outdoor School.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. That's
So
really
now
nice.
I've made the motion to.
Oh,
That's
so
wonderful.
nice. That's really great. That's really nice. Thank you. Wow. All right. Thank you for that. We have some attachments, some media reports and field trips, which I think people can read at their pleasure. There's no correspondence nor items for discussion, but we do have some policy motions. There is a recommendation.
I'll do it for you, Cynthia.
Thank you.
So the
Celeste.
Board of Education approved policy 701, financial planning and reporting, and policy 704, accumulated surplus, with the provision to allow for housekeeping changes by staff.
And I see that Rick is seconding that. Thank you, Ian, for your support. Seeing no opposition, I'll call that motion passed. That brings us to our next action item, which is the 5-year capital plan. And Ian, I see your name beside that one. Would you like to speak to that?
Absolutely, sure.
Thank you.
So we spoke today earlier in finance committee about the submission that we're putting to the Ministry of Education for a major construction project at Howsound Secondary. At Howsound Secondary, which is an expansion project to increase the capacity from 775 to 1225. And so this is a project that has been in the works for a number of years. It's been our number 1 or number 2 priority for a number of years. This year, we're focusing on this project exclusively for our submission. We have taken direction from the Minister of Education with their recommendation that this be our priority number 1 project. They've also asked us to reduce the number of projects. They're asking all districts to do that so that they have a streamlined vetting process. Also, this project is tied with the grade reconfiguration of the middle school. So it effectively eliminates some of the projects we had in prior 5-year capital plan submissions for expansions at our elementary schools. So this project reduces the number of builds we've been asking for in our district based on a grade reconfiguration from 6 to 9. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell. We're looking at the Howe Sound Secondary seismic upgrade and capacity expansion from 775 to 1225.
Terrific. Thank you so much for that, Ian. It is, in my opinion, it's an excellent plan. It's financially responsible. It meets educational needs. And I think will also meet the overall needs of our district, specifically here in Squamish. So thank you for the time and the effort that went into creating this. And thank you for submitting it to the ministry. Are there any other questions or comments?
Yeah, just for the public who may come across this, I think that it's important to review the more robust discussion that was had in Finance Committee earlier today to touch on all of the points, and I'd be happy to make the motion if anybody else. That good? Okay. That the board approves the 2023-24 5-year major capital plan as presented.
And we have a seconder for that. Thank you. And is there any opposition? See none, we'll call that motion also passed. Thank you so much. That brings us on to our items which are to be brought out of camera, and we have the joint SD48 District of Squamish meeting proposal. We don't have anyone's name beside that to speak.
I can explain that. to the public, sure.
Rick, yeah, if you would like to do that, you're most
Yeah,
closely
so
associated with the topic.
the public, interested public will be aware that we've had a couple of written communications with the District of Squamish, encouraging collaboration between District of Squamish, School District 48, and other agencies in planning for the possibility of shared facilities as each of us and the District of Squamish actually need a number of new facilities, and indeed that many of the functions of those facilities kind of overlap and coincide. And so what we discussed in camera today was the idea of the board of School District 48 meeting with the council of the District of Squamish, accompanied of course by respective senior staff, and exploring the possibilities for that kind of collaboration. And this motion, I guess there isn't a motion here, but this item is just to ensure that this idea of us getting together is now public.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Any questions or comments? Thank you so much for that, that information. Rick, really important work that needs to be done. That brings us to item G, which is our bylaws. A, we have bylaw 200.1, 2022 trustee elections. Danielle, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so this is a requirement. We're required to pass or do all of our, if we have any election bylaws, our deadline for that is August 2nd. So we just had some minor updates on our bylaw in relation to trustee elections. So that has been updated, and we need to have this passed at this board meeting to make it in time for the election in the fall.
All right, thank you for that. Is there someone prepared to make that motion?
I can do that.
Thank you.
The Board of Education unanimously agree to waive the requirement that first, second, and third reading of School District number 48 Sea to Sky bylaw 200.1-2022 be given on different dates.
And do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Mr. Kent. Is there any opposition? Seeing none, that's passed. And we'll move on to the next
The
recommendation.
Board of Education give first, second, and third reading to School District number 48 Sea to Sky bylaw 200.1-2022 as follows. Bylaw 200.1-2022 trustee elections read a first time the 8th day of June 2022, read a second time the 8th day of June 2022, read a third time, passed and adopted the 8th day of June 2022.
Do we have a seconder for that? Thank you, Celeste. Is there any opposition? Seeing none, we'll call that passed as well. Thank you so much. And that brings us to item B, the 2022-2023 annual budget and bylaw. That's Danielle or Alina.
I'll let Elena go ahead and speak to that.
Alana, thank you so much.
Thank you, Danielle. The district is required to submit their annual budget bylaw for the upcoming school year by June 30th. And the first reading was given on May 11th board meeting. And today we discussed we gave the second reading for the bylaw. And some changes have been made should I be sharing screen? Here we go. The changes has been made to revenue and expenses to bring the most up-to-date information. The budget bylaw still based on the very conservative enrollment. And like Mr. Lorette provided us today with the most recent update on enrollment, we can anticipate up to 238 increase in enrollment, which can be 1.8 million in operating funds of enrollment-based funding. So the revenue and expenses for certain special purpose funds that have not been yet confirmed formally, but we still anticipate to receive it in fall. Those funding have been eliminated from the revenue along with expenses, corresponding expenses. Also, the increased expenses on benefits for support staff and for teachers have been incorporated to reflect the changes to Employment Standard Act to providing 5 sick days for all staff. Some other changes in staffing was related to increased benefits for supported teacher staff, and this has also been incorporated. No changes had been made to FTE in staffing, so we're still committed to increase our elementary counselors and bus drivers, and increase a little bit in custodians. And the rest of commitments in technology and learning services support are still in place. But overall, our unallocated operating contingency went down, but the staff is very comfortable with this amount. So if there are any questions. That concludes our budget.
Thank you so much for that. I don't see any questions or comments, and we did have a really fulsome discussion during our finance committee meeting. So much appreciation for all the work that's gone into creating these documents. With that, I believe we do have a recommendation.
That the Board of Education unanimously agree to waive the requirement that first, second, and third reading of School District Number 48 Sea to Sky annual budget bylaw for fiscal year 2022-23 be given on different dates.
Thank you. Any opposition? Seeing none, we'll call that motion passed. And I believe there is actually a little bit more reading to go on that.
Well, that's the next motion, right?
Okay. There's not another word that says recommendation. So let's have the following recommendation.
Okay, I can go.
Okay, thank you.
A bylaw of the Board of Education of School District Number 48, Sea to Sky, called the board to adopt the annual budget of the board for the fiscal year 2022-23 pursuant to section 113 of the School Act RSBC 1996 C412 as amended from time to time, called the Act. 1, the board has complied with the provisions of the Act, ministerial orders, and the Ministry of Education policies respecting the annual budget adopted by this bylaw. 2, this bylaw may be cited as School District Number 48 Sea to Sky annual budget bylaw for fiscal year 2022-2023. 3, the attached statement 2 showing the estimated revenue and expense for the 2022-2023 fiscal year and the total budget bylaw amount of $74,292,415 for the 2022-2023 fiscal year was prepared in accordance with the Act. 4, Statement 2, 4, and Schedules 2 to 4 are adopted as the annual budget of the board for the fiscal year 2022-2023. Read a first time the 11th day of May 2022. Read a second time the 8th day of June 2022. Read a third time, passed and adopted the 8th day of June 2022.
Thank you. Thank you, Ian. I see no opposition. And so we will call that passed.
And then there's yet another one.
Yes, there is yet one more.
That the Board of Education approves the school district number 48 Sea to Sky annual budget bylaw for fiscal year 2022-2023 as presented.
And someone prepared to second that one? Thank you, Celeste. Any opposed? Seeing none, we will also call that motion passed, which brings us to questions of clarification from the public.
It doesn't look like there are any, but let me just check the junk mail folder. No questions.
All right, seeing no questions at this time, I think we can call for this meeting to be adjourned. Thank you, everyone. That was a really productive and informative meeting, and lots of appreciation for all the work that went into those